Good morning. This is a rainy day out here today. Um, I come to you once again to converse with you and give you some of my thoughts and opinions and try to give you some good data that makes sense and for you to put on your thinking cap and think about some of the things that I'll be talking to you about this morning here. And it's always a pleasure to come to LCTV and voice my concerns and the betterment of the town of Littleton. That is what it's all about, the betterment of the town of Littleton and looking out for our seniors, our voters, and our taxpayers. I got about 5 subjects here that I'm going to be running through. And the first one is that I want to talk about the last town meeting we had on May the 6th, 2025. First and foremost, we got a little over 7,000 voters here in the town of Littleton. It has always been my concept that the voters in this town really depend on the voters to always do the right thing for Littleton. So it makes no difference whether 241 or 300 or 500 or 700, any given number that comes to the town meeting, those citizens come there and many of them will watch it on television here in the town. And they believe that the people there is going to do the right thing in the town of Littleton. And I wholeheartedly believe that. So my point being is that I don't think the select board should be knocking the number of citizens that comes out to the town meeting, whether it's few or a lot. And the point that, yes, we elect them and we depend on them to do the right thing for the town of Littleton, but that is not always the case. They think they're doing the right thing for Littleton. May not very well be our perception of what they could have did. Not what they're doing, but what they could have did. And I look at could have did, being that you bring things early on to the citizen, get them involved in it, and ask them what they would like, and the select board can give their opinion as to what their thoughts are, and kick the can down the road for a few months. Well, there's some things that haven't been done that way. And the only one I know the can they been kicking down the road is about the Shaker Lane School. The stuff that happened with Article 12 and Article 13, they muddied the waters. The select board, they muddied the waters. They made changes. When I talked to the chair and the vice chair, the only change was going to be a small change to Section 4 in Article 12. Article 13 was a no-go. They weren't going to do anything with it. They weren't concerned about Section 1, 2, and 3. But it seemed like Section 1, 2, and 3 sort of kind of grew, and Article 13 sort of kind of grew and got into Article 12, and they ended up with an amendment that was very detailed and confusing about what they wanted us to vote for, and then they put Motion 1, Motion 2, and Motion 3. Motion 2 was the vote to tell them that they weren't going to do anything unless they come back to the town meeting. That was a useless motion that was in there. So they really was after motion 1 and motion 3, which was to give them power to go ahead and take the town hall and do what they wanted to do and so forth and so on. We did the right thing. We voted it down, and I hope that the select board got the message, hands off the town hall building. I hope they got that message. Hands off the town hall building. I'm going to support the citizen with hands off the town hall building. Now, I will move on from that Article 12 and talk to you a little bit about the DPW. They did a preliminary study on DPW. Somehow, somebody convinced DPW that they need a whole new facility. And the whole new facility that was sort of kind of mentioned and probably alluded to was that they need this big facility and so forth that's going to cost around $45 million. Are you kidding me? $45 million? DPW is not a school. It's not equivalent to a school. It doesn't have any growth in population. There may be 1 or 2 streets that get added on based on development in the town. And if the streets get turned over to the town for the town to apply, that's one thing. But other than that, DPW sort of kind of maintains the streets that we have, our runoff water catch basins, and they also, plow the snow, cut the grass, and when there are streets that needs resurfacing and so forth, they contract that out and get that taken care of. There are times that they need some updated equipment. Can understand that with capital improvement and so forth. What is the biggest thing that they need? Well, they probably need some more overhead sheds where they can put the equipment under and protect it a little bit better out of the weather. Well, I'm for doing that. And like I said, they don't have a population of growth anywhere in the DPW. So what is all this space that they need that's going to cost $45 million? I know everything costs, and I know everything is costly nowadays. But let me say, we can't handle that inside the budget, for number one. That means you have to go outside the budget if you're going to do something like that. My thing is this. If we have to spend any large amount of money in talking about and covering DPW, we better put it in the town hall building and rehab the town hall building and put some administrative space into the town hall building for the DPW. And give them some sheds. That's all they need. In the facilities that they have down there, they can use that as a work change house and so forth for the employees that they have. But we could put the administrative body in the town hall because we have space in there. And if we're going to put in a large sum of money and spend, we need to rehab that building to help bring it up to code in certain areas. We're not going to go out and build no facility that costs $45 million for DPW. What is wrong with the people thinking that taxpayers in Littleton is loaded with money? We're not loaded with money. And they're not drinking the water in Littleton because Littleton water is good. There is nothing in it. They must be drinking water from some other community that's making them think we need to build a facility that costs $45 million. They sure not drinking the water from Littleton. And I said, no, we're not going to spend that kind of money. If we spent any amount of money that makes sense, we should be putting it into the town hall building, making administrative space for the DPW up here and give them some sheds. That's what they need. So I'm going to be fighting that all the way when they start talking about that. And it's just nonsense that they would come on board and start talking about spending that kind of money when we're at the crossroads with our schools and trying to get a new school put in place. Why would they even think to come up and talk about that? That doesn't make sense. They're not going to pull wool over our eyes. They lied to us one time, and I ain't going to forget it, about the 36 King Street and the new center on Shattuck Street, which at the time it was talking about the COA Senior Center. Because we built 17,000 square feet in the new building, they had 22,000 square feet in 36 King Street and said it was too small. We can't use it. They lied to us. And that came from the front office to include the select board. Pacific asked the assistant town administrator at the town meeting, before this town meeting, about the space. And he confirmed it was 17,000 in the new, 22,036. That was 5,000 more square feet than needed. We ended up spending, I guess, typically almost a little over 9 million with the purchase and the renovation of that building. Versus we paid 18.5 for the new center, and I understand, if you haven't heard, it came in under that amount. How much under? At this time, I do not know. At the time they opened the center up, they did not know. So I guess sooner or later we'll get the real figure as to how much it came in for. That's very good. But still, it's a lot of money. And there's a lot of people think that it was too much money to pay for that. But our official says we can do it in budget. Listen, I'm for doing just about anything that we can do with our tax dollars if we can do it in budget. I do not have a problem, because when they do it in budget, that means that your taxes don't go up, or there's no debt exclusion. And that's always a good thing. You can handle it within the budget, that is great. That is fantastic. I support it, if that's the case. But we need to understand there are things that we need to maintain So we have to watch how we spend the money. My thing is keeping the eye on the ball, and that's the budget. At every town meeting, it's once a year that we go, or twice a year we go to a town meeting. What they don't do is what they should do. They don't keep you abreast as to what's being paid off. How much more do we owe on this debt, and this debt, and this debt, and this debt? They don't tell you. Because it's not a concern. It should be a concern. Because they're there asking us to approve money to be spent. You should tell us where we at with the town's debt as well. If you're out there listening, town officials, you need to put that on your agenda to tell us what we're paying off and how much we owe, how much debt we're in. I'll move from the DPW to the town hall building. I spoke a little bit earlier about it. It is very clear to me that the town hall building is probably a rock solid building. You know, a couple of months ago we had an earthquake come through here, through Littleton. And it was felt a little bit in the town hall and I guess a few other places. You have people that tends to want to make something look so bad, like it's needed, it's going to fall in, or it's going to fall apart, or whatever the case is. The town hall building is a good, solid building there. Yeah, it has some issues, and there's some things that we need to do because the building is, 103 years old, somewhere around that neighborhood. So you're going to expect that there's some stuff that's going to need to be done to the building. But you need to get off that kick about saying how bad that building is. That building is nowhere as bad as they tried to make it out to be. Yeah, there's some things that need to be done. Yeah, it takes money to do certain things to the building. But there's no need, in my opinion, to knock the building to the point, we need a new building, we need this, we need that. Well, we can fix it because when they spoke about building a new building up at 550 as a new town hall, I believe FinCom said that whatever amount of money they need to complete that new town hall building, they would build it into the budget for 10 years. And that you would not have to go outside of the budget for the money to pay for it. Well, what I think you need to do is put a stabilization fund in place and start putting money in it to take care of the town hall building. That's what I think. The people are pleased with the town hall building being there. It's a historical building. They want to keep it. They do not want you to take it for senior housing. If you didn't get that at the 6th May town meeting, that was the message. Hands off. That's all I'm going to say about that for right now. Let's talk a little bit about Shaker Lane. I'm thinking at some point there's no other location in the town of Littleton where that you can build a new school for Shaker Lane. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I'm thinking that because they tend to use the current land that's at Shaker Lane to try to put the new school in, the new addition added on to Shaker Lane. I know they probably got several scenarios as to what they want to do, either build from ground up or add on to, or whatever the case is. But at any token, it's a big price tag of at least $100 million to build that. And now we understand that it was said that you could use the current sewer system, but now they're saying that you can't. Not quite sure why you can't. But at any token, going from grade K to K2, that's a lot of money for a school. Are we being smart by limiting it to that? I've heard a few people talk about it, which make a lot of good sense to me. Let me talk a little bit about Shaker Lane. My thinking is that if we have to spend a little bit more money, the idea is let's try to make this the last school that we have to build. Because it's important that we prevent our special ed students, treat them with decency and treat them with respect and give them the quality of education that they so deserve. Taking a closet and converting it into a special ed teaching moment does not sit well with me. And I can assure you, if someone went and complained to the federal government, that is what Littleton is doing, that would not sit well with the federal government either. So let's think about things. Let's do things right. Let's try to take and think about the advantage of building a new school so that all our pupils will be able to have adequate space, decent space, a good learning environment. And to do that, we have to put on our thinking cap. And also, we need to think outside the box. And what I'm getting to, some people say, well, you can't put these kids with this amount of kids at this age and so forth and so on. Once upon a time, there was one school where you had kindergarten, first grade through 12th grade. Well, it depends how far you go back. It was through the 10th grade. That's where the high school stopped at. We're not living in those days, but it's nonsense for us to think that we can't have kindergarten kids, first and second grade kids, and said third and fourth grade kids. We're only talking about two ages more different. Excuse me. So let's look at the fact, let's look at building a school that says kindergarten through grade 4. What would that do? That would add a little bit of money. But it also would probably give us the opportunity to probably not have to build another new school. You could take Russell Street and put the 5 and 6-year-old students there in that school. And you could take the middle school and make it 7 and 8. It depends on the growth that is put in the Shaker Lane School as to how many classes that's going to go forward to be 5th graders and 6th graders and 7th graders and 8th graders, and as they go to the high school. If there's any place that you may have to do some adjustment if we build Shaker Lane School K through 4, will be maybe to add on some space based on what is pushed into the high school. That's not like building a whole new school. A lot of people are sort of kind of saying that's too much money for such few classes, kindergarten 1 and 2. And so I kind of agree with that. Matter of fact, I was sort of kind of talking to the director here before I started this program. And he was sort of kind of the one sort of kind of brought up as I was saying K through 5. He said, but let's think about that. He started kicking out some scenarios here and there and said this would work this way because, once you get to the 9th grade, I was sort of kind of said maybe you could back up the 9th grade into the middle school. He said, well, that's your first year, you get into high school. So, it's that theme of I'm in high school. And that means that you're here with 10th, 11th, and 12th. Made sense. So I just took his suggestion, just sort of kind of added into what I'm saying here to you now, and just adjusted the school grades, which makes sense. And the important thing is, yes, we're going to have to build a school to take care of the school issues that we have at hand or that we're looking at that is down the road. And it's going to cost us a little bit more money, and it's going to be a debt exclusion, not an override, but a debt exclusion to do that. When you are asleep, I am thinking outside the box. Let me tell you, I talked to the chief assessor of the town of Littleton, and I wanted to know how much money are the taxpayers right now paying over and above for the town to collect the amount of money that they can collect based on the fact that IVM moved out at 550 King Street. The laws that's on the books says that a city or town can collect the assessment of that property when it's empty. The chief assessor told me that this year is a reevaluation of property, and that she had not had the opportunity yet, but it was on her agenda to look into where 550 King Street is today. I do know that we was paying at least $130 a year towards the monies that the town is entitled to collect. She says that there's been so much movement with, commercial in, industrial in, out, so forth and so on, that she just hadn't had the chance to give a real serious look at that question that I asked her. But she said, George, call me back around, say, August, somewhere in that neighborhood. She said, I should be able to tell you a little bit better with regards to that and tell you where the assessment on 550 is at. And I said, I can understand that. I can appreciate that. I'm in no big hurry. I said, my thinking was this. We're going to have to build a school, a Shaker Lane school. And we're going to have to build it outside of the budget. So debt exclusion. And based upon that, some have said that the tax is going to jump up pretty close to $2,000 per taxpayer. That's a big jump. That's a big jump. And people are looking at, how can I afford to pay $2,000 more in taxes like that? One said, are they crazy? Where am I going to get that kind of money? Well, my thing was that it's not only the fact that if we do nothing and we get into a situation where someone notifies the federal government of condition that we're teaching students in, and then the state come to find out what's going on and so forth, then you're looking at the state and the federal government now coming in telling Littleton, well, you either do this or you either do that or this or that, or you get the school in a situation where that the state said, well, we're going to take receivership of this school and we're going to do this, do that, whatever the case is. Well, you never want the government to come in and force your hand into doing stuff like that. That's what happened to Boston. Boston finally got their act together, and the state says, okay, we're going to try it your way and see how it worked. That was with the busing. And they had to have a grade of 95 or better on time delivery of kids to the school system. So right now, they got a little bit of a problem that's going on there with the busing there in Boston since that child was killed. It's important for us to understand and to think that the money that comes into this town from taxes, you are the decision makers, the final decision makers of how that money could or should be spent. So here's my thought outside the box. Based on the new growth money that's coming in, they should put a stabilization fund in place. And let's say our taxes, I'm just throwing this figure out. Let's say it's $1,500 get added to our taxes. I'm saying based on the new growth that's going to take place at the common area in the town of Littleton, that you take half of, at least half or more of that new growth tax, put it in a stabilization, and have them to calculate off how much do they need to charge you this year towards the new school. So if it's half, it's $750. Maybe we'll have enough growth there that you only have to pay $500 instead of $15. Remember one thing, we have the say as to how you're going to spend our money. Always believe that you have the right to get relief when you go forth and do good for this community. Not let them spend it to do what they want to do and to do this and do that. No, you're going to think about the tax that you put on us to get this built and to do this. We want relief. You never give us anything less than 2.5% on our property. We always pay the max, 2.5% plus growth. That's what we pay every year. So I'm saying, let's look at this. So I talked to the chief assessor, and she said, I get where you're going, George. You're saying to be able to offset. You're absolutely right, to be able to offset. I'm thinking, but if we don't say anything and we don't do anything, these town officials are going to do what they want to do. And I'm here about helping us, having avenues of approach as to how we can do better, how we can help ourselves. So with that new growth coming in up there, Northern Bank is going to put in about $5 billion up there compared to the one they got now they're paying taxes. The thing that this town needs to do and the thing that the town officials need to do is to be honest with us and help us. That's what they need to do. Am I saying all town officials not honest? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when it comes down to the brass tacks of how much money is coming in, you need to be honest with us. You need to tell us. They never tell us how much money we collected compared to last year. They never tell us. It's too much of a problem for them to tell us. They don't want you to know. You have the right to know exactly how much money they collect over and above. They should be giving you that. I shouldn't have to be telling you about this is what they should be doing. They should be doing it already. But they're not. You got to keep the eye on the ball. That's the money. That's the budget. We deserve better than what we're getting. So that's my thoughts outside the box as to how we can help reduce and put in what we need to do. It's just like I stressed to you about the bylaw. We didn't need the state started holding money back on grants and stuff that we had approved and so forth and so on because we didn't want to do 750 MBTA housing in the town of Littleton. You got to act smart and intelligent. And I know that we have nothing but intelligent people living here in Littleton. We just need to use the avenues that makes it better for Littleton as a whole. That's all we need to do. We're going to suffer a little bit, but it won't be long down the road. These millions of dollars started coming in on the new property taxes. We're going to decide where it goes. We want you to give as much relief and have a little bit there for the town to have, but the bigger portion of the relief, we want to put it towards that debt that we have. If it's 120 or 130 million dollars. And the next thing we need to do is tell the town to put on some brakes. About building, new. We should fall back to the point of the essential items that we need to do and so forth and so on. I think that the select board, you can do a better job in terms of keeping us abreast as to how much money that the town is taking in. And that should be a standard item that's reported at the town meeting with regards to where our debts are and how much money we're receiving or received or anticipate on receiving, and establishing a stabilization fund for the school, if you don't have one already in place, and one for the town hall. We love our town hall. I believe that concludes, and that amount of money, that will be yearly until we pay off the school in full. They will contribute that money in that stabilization to pay that yearly mortgage. That's just our typical figure to say $4 million. That will be every year they'll do that until that happened, then that would drop off your taxes there. But I think we got to think smart when it comes to the school. That one kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, I think that we're not getting the best bang for the dollar. And I think that we can do better. It may cost a little bit more. That's understandable. But we have to look at the long range on this picture as to what it will do for us as a whole. I mean, we rehabbed, well, we put money in Shaker Lane, then we rehabbed Russell Street, and we built a new school in the Mill Street, the middle school. And I knew long ago that Shaker Lane was going to be next because we had so much problem down there with the elevator going up to the second floor and et cetera down there. And they've put in temporary repairs to certain things down there, and it's just not cutting the mustard. And we need to fix it. And we need to fix it because of our pupils there. And I'm primarily concerned about the special ed kids there. They're the ones that is not getting the best bang for the dollar that's coming in from the federal government for them. And the school system, you know that. Taking a closet and converting to teach a special ed kid doesn't cut the mustard with me. Yeah, you're trying to do your best. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, you're trying to do your best. The government does the same thing. When you are doing that and you're in the process of trying to build a school, they're not going to come down on you as hard as if you were just ignoring it and just taking the money and not doing anything. You're trying to deal with it now. So the government is going to give you that latitude there that you're trying to do right now. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you as always for giving me the opportunity to come before you and express my thoughts and concern and try to give you some straight poop. God bless you and have a nice day.